You're listening to the Cynic Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cynic.
And you are listening to episode 30 of the Cynic Radio Podcast. I'm your purveyor of nonsense, Cynic. And with me, as always, Minnesota's answer to Alex Jones, my good friend Igri. This week, the gang's all here, and we have a jam-packed show for you, as we discuss in what many people's opinion might be the greatest episode of Game of Thrones of all time, the Battle of Blackwater. Also, we've all been waiting for it, but did Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 live up to the hype? Find out this and more, because we are the CRP, and this podcast is dark and full of errors. Miss out on that latest viral video? Didn't see the most recent trailer for the next movie coming out? In the dark about what the biggest song in America is? We've got you covered. Every week we scour the internet and look for the latest and greatest. This is What's Up.
What's up for me this week is the impending arrival of Alien Covenant. I've gotten some early reviews on this, and I'm really excited to go see this movie. This is going to take out of Alien what we originally got in 1979, and that's the suspense and the chest bursters and the actual alien themselves. Prometheus was kind of a mess. That movie was hard to watch and didn't really get you anywhere. But this is going to take what was in Prometheus and move it forward. So we're still going to get some of that. And Michael Fassbender is here again, and he is great. You're going to have a good time watching this movie. It comes out on May 19th here in North America. Go see it. Alien Covenant on May 19th. That's What's Up.
Hey guys, my What's Up this week is for the amazing game developers who have done it again at Fresh Games and their new app, Word Ranch. If you love to play word games like I do, get your phone out right now because you're going to want to download this app immediately. While the game gives you a similar feel to Word Cookies, this game gets right what Word Cookies doesn't, in that it keeps you engaged by not only the spectacular graphics and wordplay, but it also allows you to help the main character Sarah build her ranch by adding on to the ranch every time you finish a specific pack and by creating extra words in the game. Additionally, they have a timed bonus level in every pack level, and this bonus round helps you to earn even more coins. And by the way, the sheep that comes in on the bonus level is absolutely adorable. So download Word Ranch today because that is What's Up.
What's up for me this week? Well, it's the city of Boston. On May 1st, Baltimore All-Star player and one of the most truly likable guys in baseball, Adam Jones, received taunts and repeated racial slurs hurled at him from the stands by Boston fans. After the game, he spoke to the press and he said, "This is a sport, and in terms of the game, you can boo me or say anything you want about my performance. We're rivals, I get it, but this type of speech has no place in the game." He's right. Boston has traditionally been known as one of the least socially intolerant cities in sports, but the What's Up portion of this ugly incident is not only the class that Adam showed during the unacceptable behavior, but the support he received after the incident. From the governor of Massachusetts, to the mayor of Boston, to the Red Sox organization, and even its players. And the fans, who gave him a long-standing ovation the next night when he came up to bat. It's 2017, almost 70 years after Jackie Robinson took the field and changed the game forever. Yet we still suffer from this closed-minded thinking and shameful behavior. There's no place for it anywhere, and it's time for this cowardliness to end. But for me, this week, for today, Adam Jones, the Red Sox, the state of Massachusetts, your What's Up.
So What's Up for me goes out to former NBA All-Star Brandon Roy, who was unfortunately shot while visiting his grandmother in California. What makes this notable is that he was shot while protecting children from gunfire. And so, to me, I've been kind of disconnected from professional sports outside of MMA for a long time. I've always felt like the athletes kind of are disconnected from the fans and reality. And, it's always nice to see a situation where you see just a truly heroic act by an athlete. And in a situation where, most people would just duck for cover and not, they would bypass the part of the brain that says, wait, let me see if I should protect others. His natural reaction was to protect others. And I think it's notable, and it really deserves recognition and deserves respect. And that is What's Up for me.
The stage is set, and we've waited all season long. The war of the now four kings rages on. As King Stannis' fleet creeps into the Blackwater Bay, under the cover of fog and night, with superior numbers, their ships outnumber the kings 5-1, and their army outnumbers the kings 10-1. Ryan, did the opening sequence ring eerily similar to Saving Private Ryan's invasion of Normandy?
Honestly, I do not remember Saving Private Ryan at all. I saw it when it came out, and I was too young to get, and I have not rewatched it. So I'm going to disappoint you.
IG. did the opening sequence ring eerily similar to Saving Private Ryan's invasion of Normandy on D-Day?
Yeah, there'd be a fuckload of Germans, right? Yeah, it seemed like the Americans were overwhelmed in that, so it was like that, but reversed in Saving Private Ryan, where an undermanned crew was trying to storm a beach that was heavily fortified. The only thing that helped, I mean, if you remember your history, is that the Germans thought they were going further north up the beach, and they didn't. But yeah, it did seem like there's some shit about to go down. That's for absolutely sure.
Davos and his son have two distinctly different views on this battle. Ryan, is the only difference between a liberator or a defender based on what side of the wall you're standing on?
I guess so. This is such a morally gray world that you can definitely see it from whatever kind of point of view you want to. And, well, it's interesting because actually in this story we're really not given a reason to, as an audience, to really view Stannis as a liberator, except that the laws possibly dictate it. But we also don't particularly like Lannisters either. So it's an interesting situation where it's kind of gray. There's no like hero. There's a clear villain, but Stannis isn't really like a liberator, And so it made it for a strange viewing experience, because I found myself throughout the episode changing which side I was on depending on who like the focus was.
Linda, you being a self-admitted Stannis fan, is he a liberator?
I think that he thinks he is a liberator. Honestly, I agree. It's such a gray area as far as morality and intentions go. But from the point of view that I take, yes, he needs to do this in order to liberate the keep, in order to ascend the throne, in order to preserve the nation such as it stands. In my point of view, it's justified and it's kind of inspiring, but it's also a little like it's kind of romantic and idealist in a way, where you're just like, Stannis, this stuff again. He just can't get enough.
Does Stannis make you think at all like he's Trump with all of his belief in some religious doctrine that maybe shouldn't take any part in politics?
I'm just gonna say that Trump doesn't.
Well, he's got his religious zealot over there, kind of supporting him and saying, if you attack now, we saw it in the fire, and that seems like something Trump might buy.
Stannis also lives in a world where magic is real. And he has a full head of hair, so I'm more inclined to believe him.
You know what's a little bit interesting about this episode is I agree with Ryan when he did say you're kind of swaying towards Stannis and you're kind of swaying towards not necessarily Joffrey, but Tyrion. I wanted Tyrion to win. I wanted to see him come out on top and really take charge, but I didn't want Joffrey to win. And we know he was defending Joffrey, so that was the interesting part.
Well, Jules, going into the battle, pre-Tyrion's light show, did you give King Stannis a shot in hell?
I did, because I felt like Davos was a good support to him, and I felt like they had a lot of ships behind them. I felt like they had a lot of great warriors behind them. It did seem like, now, Tyrion, these guys had the wildfire card up their sleeve, but it did seem like they were a little bit discombobulated about exactly what was going on and their plans. So I did feel like Stannis was a bit more organized and a bit more military-like, and I thought he definitely had a shot.
The thing that I found kind of confusing was, like, it didn't seem like anybody else knew what wildfire was before a couple episodes before this. Like nobody that was in the keep had any idea what it was. And then all of a sudden, like, Davos was like, wildfire. That struck me as odd, but leading up to that point, before their trick kind of pulled out forward, I honestly thought there's no way to stop Stannis at this point. I think that it was going to be just a knockdown, drag-out battle, and somehow Stannis was going to take it and push Lannisters out of the keep. That's what I thought was going to happen, because they just looked damn impressive coming with all those boats and all those men.
Tyrion Leonwood Shay says you can't fuck your way out of everything, and he admits to her that he's troubled on the oncoming war. Is Shay the greatest actor in the world, or does she truly care about her line of Lannister, Linda?
That's a tough question. I think that she's, caught in between a rock and a hard place, and I think that she's involved in a very delicate balancing act. I wouldn't say that she loves him. I wouldn't say that she necessarily cares about him deeply, but I think that there is some small sort of regard there, maybe some respect, but at the same time, I don't know. I think that she has her own agenda and she's not in it for Tyrion.
I didn't trust Shay at all initially. I think, of course, in this world, she's going to do what she has to do to get by, and she kind of scores herself a Lannister, and she, takes it and is able to run with it. So I didn't trust her until she showed showed how much she cared about Sansa, and that seemed real. So kind of the way she treated Sansa seemed so real that I believed in her more, and then that made me believe that, well, maybe she really does have those feelings for Tyrion. So it's kind of like by me, I think Sansa humanized her to me. And then that made me start to think, well, maybe she really does mean it. And I started to drift away from thinking that she's just a good actress.
So she's a halfway decent person and probably a halfway decent actress. So we'll say it falls someplace in the middle, right? I mean, she didn't have to look out for Sansa, but she did. But she's looking out for Tyrion more so than she would if he didn't have any gold at all.
To be fair, she could just be looking out for Sansa in her own self-interest. Like that was a way to keep her in the keep. But it did seem genuine.
I feel like she always looked at Sansa like she was a prisoner herself. You know what I mean? Like Sansa is the prisoner that she is, and I think that is why she sort of took care of her in the way she did.
Grand Maester Pycelle gives Cersei essence of Nightshade, as if she needs any more venom. Even though he plays the role of the old fool, is it wise to dismiss anyone who's lasted this long in King's Landing?
No, I don't think it's ever wise to downplay anybody, especially if you've been there for an extended amount of time. And that's something that does happen pretty often here, because you see it happen with Littlefinger. You see it happen with Lord Varys. People just kind of brush off whatever they're doing. Now, going back to this Nightshade, though, I got to wonder, all right, because he went over 3 potential doses with the Nightshade, right? A single dose will calm your nerves. A single drop. 3 drops will give you a dreamless sleep. And 10 drops, and I know what 10 drops will do. I want to know what the other drops will do. Is 2 drops like a 4-hour erection? And
I think it was clear. It wasn't blue. I'm pretty sure it was clear.
Like 5 drops is maybe like a Molly experience or something. I mean, there's got to be some other uses for that stuff if they're measuring what it does to you by drops.
Bronn and his host of Singing Lannisters do a Westeros Idol rendition of the Reigns of Castamere when the Hound shows up and they exchange words. Ryan, who do you like in a scrap between the Hound and Bronn if it came to blow?
I'd be leaning a little bit more towards Bronn, and I would want Bronn to win, but that's really close. I don't know.
I think the only way you could decide that, honestly, is on the length of the fight, because if the fight is short, it's going to be Bronn, because he's quick and he's dirty and he doesn't fight with honor like the dog might. But if it goes more than about 2 minutes, it's the Hound all the way through.
Just because I pay you for your services doesn't diminish our friendship. Tyrion and Bronn say their goodbyes. Between Bronn and Shay, both of whose loyalties are bought and paid for, Linda, does Tyrion have a true friend in Westeros?
No, he doesn't. I don't think he does.
I think he does. I totally think he has Podrick. I think he has Bronn, and I think he has Shay. I think he has all 3 of them.
You think they're all true friends and they're not just being paid for?
Well, I think Bronn has proven that he's there for Tyrion, but he's willing to go so far. I think when you're asking somebody to constantly risk their life for somebody, I mean, that's a little bit pushing it. But I think Bronn genuinely likes Tyrion, and I think Podrick genuinely likes Tyrion. Shay, I think there's a little bit of question mark there because, she is a prostitute that kind of shows her true colors at some point, but I do think that she does have genuine feelings for him.
She could hitch her wagon to somebody else, though, if she wanted, like you're saying. So I think, there is something about Tyrion that she likes. And who can blame her? Tyrion's got the most charisma of any of those Lannisters.
But I do think this is kind of part of Tyrion's kind of pathos is I think we can see that Podrick is loyal and Bronn, they seem to like him, but it's always kind of in the back of his head that they don't really care about him. Like they or they may not. They'll go where the money is, and if Tyrion doesn't have money, they won't be there. And so, I can see how that's gotta be rough. That would be tough on anybody in that position where you don't ever really know if people are truly your friends. But I do think, I think the best example would be Pod, because Pod does seem, unquestionably loyal, obviously. But yeah, I think that's one of the hard things about being Tyrion in a way, is like not knowing who really cares about you, and then having such like kind of disregard from your own family or disdain from your family can't help.
And it's interesting too, because it seems to be the easy way out for him to pay people, because he can make a true friend. Because I would count Jon Snow amongst his friends after the solid he did him at the Wall, and it not only being honest with him going into it, but saving him in the kind of the war room there. He came in and he talked those guys down, and he was the only one that was ever straight with Jon Snow about what he was stepping into. And I think that he could do that with all of these people without having to buy them. But I think by buying them, he ensures their loyalty until somebody comes along with more money.
I mean, I think the big question to ask ourselves is, if Tyrion was sitting alone at the bar and he hasn't paid anyone for the past, year or so, who would come up and say hi and genuinely enjoy his company? I think Shay would turn the other way. I don't think she'd want to be caught up in him again. I think Bronn would be like, nope, bad news too many times. I think Pod would be, again, I think, like we've all sort of said, the most likely to come up and share a pint. But yeah, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that Tyrion Lannister is very alone in the world, and that sort of drives a lot of his motivations.
We jump into a room full of goodbyes as Sansa and Joffrey have an interesting and intense back and forth as she coyly challenges his manhood with questions like, oh, are you going to kill Stannis yourself? And will you be in the vanguard like my brother Robb? If not worthless in every other way. Linda, how deep is Sansa's troll game?
So deep. Like Mariana's trench deep. She's awesome. I know that there was a lot of Sansa hate at the beginning of the series in general, but I've always been such a huge fan of hers. She's always been able to use her wits and her cleverness in ways that are surprising and underhanded. And she just plays this boy like a fiddle. She knows where his weaknesses are. She knows where his insecurities lie, and she's just on it. And I think this is one of the episodes where we see her really come into her own, and it's just standing there like, nope, I'm a wolf. Try it.
And right before that, she had such a great moment with Tyrion where she's like, I'll pray for your safety. And he asked, will you? As much as I will the king's.
I agree. I've always liked Sansa too, and I do think she's used every moment she could actually get in her digs to get them in. And just like Linda just said, she knows where his weaknesses are, and she goes right for them. And she doesn't do them all the time, but she gets them when she gets them.
She can certainly clap back. That's for
She
sure.
covered her best line, I think, last week when Joffrey was like, well, maybe I'll bring you your brother's head for our wedding present. And she's like, or maybe he'll bring me yours. I love that line. It was probably one of the best of the series. Ryan, being part of martial arts, is Sansa's troll game black belt level?
Yeah, I would say so. Like she's definitely like I didn't like her in the beginning because she's spoiled, and you kind of you compare her to Arya, who's so cool and tough and kind of a badass
And looks like Sid.
But whenever Sansa does kind of say something like insult or troll Joffrey, it's great and it's really funny and she's really good. So it's like she's very witty when it comes to that, but otherwise she makes some fairly poor choices and can be kind of a brat. And I do like where her arc has taken her, and I like how her character has developed. But the only likable thing was whenever she had those interactions with Joffrey where she would snap back at him.
As Blackwater Bay lights up in amazing green flames, destroying Stannis' advantage and causing Davos to scream out, "You sank my battleship." IG, will we ever visually see anything this amazing again?
I don't know, because that was impressive, just watching like the aftershocks and everything with that flame just blowing through those ships and everything. That was really cool. And I can't believe after that Stannis's army had even half a nerve to try and march on the city after that. That might, that kind of just a psychological thing that would do to your army, I would think would freak your army out enough that they might think twice about trying to continue the attack.
And what was crazier than the visuals of that was the screams. Like those screams were authentic. It sounded like they were really burning to death. That was terrifying. So I mean that was one of the most tense. Like I mean the before, during, and after, like one of the most tense and intense scenes I've ever seen.
Doesn't it say a lot about Stannis though? Like the size of his balls, just to watch like all that happen to so many people and be like, well, let's keep it moving. We're still going. Don't get sidetracked by this little thing.
Well, that's actually my next question, Jules, is if you're Stannis in that situation, you're standing there and you watch 3/4 of your fleet go up in green flame, do you turn the ships around, call it an L, and go home?
Yeah, right. Do you call an audible at that point? I think most people would, but he was on a mission, and I think he had the Lord of Light behind him. The lady in red, the red lady, whatever, she had him believing, and she gave him the confidence and the strength to keep going forward, whether that was stupid or not. He believed in it, and I believe that's why he kept going, because he thought he believed in what she said.
That priestess of the Lord of Light seems to have a lot of misgivings in what she's thinking, though. She's not right even, I think, 10% of the time. Weathermen do a better job than she does.
Well, what do you think, IG? I mean, Stannis Baratheon, balls of steel or crazy religious zealot?
Yeah, are they mutually exclusive? Can it be both? Because he's got, I mean, I don't know how he stands. I mean, he should be having to wheel around everywhere because those are like bowling ball sized fucking 12 pound each testicles that he's carrying between his legs. I don't know how he moves.
In the cynic moment of the show, and no doubt, if they win the day, Tyrion should win praise in favor of his family and the everlasting love of King's Landing, right? Does your father not believe in the gods? Oh, he believes in them. He just doesn't like them very much. Full of brutal honesty and contempt for the world, Cersei rains down reality on Sansa's head like the arrows falling on Stannis' men outside. IG, pick your poison. Flaming arrows are the bitter taunting of Cersei's venom.
I'd have to take the arrow, the burning arrow at that. She's vicious. She is just savage in how she does some of these things, and I can't believe that she can sit. I mean, because Sansa's like 13. She just had her first period. And this woman is just laying into her. I mean, what kind of heartless bitch do you have to be to lay into a 13-year-old girl? Oh, they'll bleed outside while you bleed in here. Fuck you, bitch.
I think she thought they were all dead, and I think she just was like laying it all out. I think she was putting all her cards on the table and was like,
let's
fuck
not
it. I don't
try
care.
and calm the 13-year-old down a little bit so she doesn't fucking have an anxiety attack. No, let's lay it on a little thicker. That seems like a better plan.
It's like the plane's going down and you call and you tell your wife how much you hate her and you hate the kids and you hate your life and you're quitting your job and just it levels out and you just keep going. And oh, by the way, I was only joking.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, and by the way, if we lose, you're most certainly going to be raped. Wow.
Right.
Any man who dies with a clean sword, I'll rape his fucking corpse. As the hound goes out and to meet thousands of Baratheon soldiers. Well, maybe not that many now. IG, did it look to you like there was any way that King's Landing would not fall?
At that moment, it looked pretty grim for the Lannisters and pseudo-Baratheons. Because that's all I can call Joffrey is a pseudo-Baratheon. Because he's obviously inbred in more ways than
Come
one.
on, man. Spoiler alert. Linda, did you think King's Landing would fall?
I was sort of hoping it would in my heart of hearts because Stannis, the one true king, kind of deserved it. He deserved a win, damn it. He deserved a win. I was hoping it would, but I think I knew it wouldn't.
But Tyrion deserved to win too.
Tyrion can go lie in bed with his whore.
He just did that earlier. He's already got that out of the way.
That's checked off for the day. I
He can
mean,
just stay there. I really don't care. Anyway, Stannis, one true king, gave up his daughter, his birthright, his ships, everything.
He hasn't given up his daughter yet.
Linda went to the school of Davos over here.
Anyway, well, he will.
She wants to go live in the field of onions with Davos and serve the one true king. Here we go.
when we were younger, we looked so much alike our father couldn't tell us apart, but Jaime was taught to fight with swords, and I was sold to a stranger, like a horse, to be ridden when he desired. But you were Robert's queen, and you'll be Joffrey's. Enjoy. Ryan, do you think Cersei might be a little salty about her station in life? Like, she might have possibly been given the short end of the gender stick?
Yeah, I think that drives her. That's that she's constantly trying to overcompensate. It's something that we see a little bit of at this stage in the show. We see more of it as the show progresses, but I think that's part of it. She doesn't like that that line is actually a perfect perfect example of that. That she feels as competent as Jaime, but she was never given the chance. And so I think that she does have resentment and contempt seemingly towards everybody.
Jules, as Cersei sniffs out Shay and begins to question her about her origin story, is this the first nail in the Shay Tyrion showmance?
Yeah, I thought it was going down then. I just thought it was a matter of obviously a couple minutes before this was all going to be figured out. So definitely not a good moment, but obviously it got nipped in the bud pretty quickly. I mean, she didn't really get to move forward, find out any more information.
Fuck the Kingsguard, fuck the city, and fuck the king. The Hound has had enough of the Lannisters' nonsense, and he was out. Was it the fire or almost certain death if he stayed outside the gates that forced the Hound to flee?
I rewatched this episode earlier today, and it sparked in my head that the Hound is the perfect combination of James Hetfield and Frankenstein. He just fire bad. He wants no part of it. So I don't think he'd have a problem getting stabbed and fight and lose an arm, all that. That's fine. Yeah, the fire. Yeah, I'm out. I'm done. I'm surprised after the wildfire that he actually went outside the gate, because he's like, but there's shit burning out there. Fire bad.
Yeah, you're right. Fire is completely his kryptonite. And you're right. I agree. Like anything else, he would die by any other way and he would find that completely fine. But fire, no. Not having it.
Well, if my face was half burnt off by cranberry juice, you better believe I'd stay the fuck away from cranberry juice. They're out there throwing cranberries at me. I'm not going out. I don't care. I don't blame the Hound. As rule-driven and by-the-book Stannis is, in this first battle, at least that they show him in, he's the first one up the ladder while Joffrey hides behind the walls in his mom's skirt. Linda, would Westeros and all the small folk be better with a more hands-on leader like Stannis?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He would be. Stannis, again, he's the one true king. One true king. I mean, he just has more experience. He's been running the show for a long time. It's pretty obvious.
What show exactly has he been running?
All of them. All the shows. Every single one. All of them.
Because, he's not been king. He's not really.
I mean, here's the thing. Like,
he's been kind of running wherever the Baratheons are from, sort of, but under direction of Robert. So he really hasn't been doing.
No. When Robert was king, it was made pretty obvious that he spent his time hunting and doing this and doing that and like doing all these things that were more for himself rather than for the people. And it was definitely implied that Stannis took care of a lot of stuff that was going on. Like Stannis was the one who sort of employed the people of the castle and employed the lords and sort of rallied the people around the Baratheons.
And burned them alive.
I'm just saying, he was the one who actually had the hands-on knowledge of how to run a country.
The one true king.
Other than a few brief moments, it's all downhill for Captain Stannis, so we might as well give him as much love as possible for this failed attempt on King's Landing. In one of the best speeches of the show, don't fight for the king. Don't fight for his kingdoms. Don't fight for honor. Don't fight for glory. Don't fight for riches, because you won't get any. This is your city Stannis means to sack. That means he's ramming your gate. If he gets in, it'll be your homes he burns, and your gold he steals, and your women he rapes. Those are brave men knocking at our door. Let's go kill them. Ryan, after the half-man's full speech, would you follow Tyrion into battle?
Yeah, that was outside of the speech from Any Given Sunday, which is probably my favorite speech of all time. That's probably the best speech, my favorite speech of all time. Just the way he delivers it. That he's a quote half man. He's in battle armor, ready to go to war. I don't know how you can't follow him after that. It wasn't the most like eloquent speech in the world, but it's one of the most effective speeches like in any show I've ever seen, and I totally would follow him.
Yeah, it's totally a Phil Jackson moment there. That's for sure.
Sansa returns back to her quarters to find the Hound sitting there drunk. The world is full of killers, girl. You better get used to looking at them. The Hound offers Sansa a way out. Ig, can she trust him?
At this point, with everything the Hound is thinking about, I think actually she probably could have. I think she very well could have trusted him. I think she could have taken him up on his offer, and he would have safely delivered her back to Winterfell. She didn't choose right. I think she should have chosen more smartly.
Tyrion leads the counterattack and wins the day, if not for a minute, and then is promptly sliced in half, almost in half, by Sir Madden Moore. Podrick then kills Moore with a spear. What in the ever-loving fuck was that about, Linda, and who do you think was responsible?
Oh, it was wild. It was so wild. I mean, I suspect that Littlefinger had a huge thing to do with it. I'm not sure what exactly is happening, but it's not good. There's some spy master shit going on that I'm not quite on the level.
I didn't think Littlefinger at all. Did any of you guys think Littlefinger?
I thought it had to be Cersei.
I thought it was Cersei / Joffrey, one of those two.
Well, Cersei's got that venomous hate for Tyrion anyway, so I was on board with
But
Cersei.
so does Joffrey.
Yeah, but more so Cersei because Cersei's just been alive longer. I mean, Cersei blames Tyrion for her mother's death and just doesn't like him because he's smart. Just everything.
But since Joffrey's been king, Tyrion has put him in his place more than anybody else. Even just a few days before when they were walking through the city and he's coming through and he slapped Joffrey and he was like, "You're a fool. Don't you see what's going on?" I felt like Joffrey had a lot of anger towards him. So
But
that's
I
why
don't think Joffrey's smart enough
Joffrey's
to have
not
come up with
smart
that,
enough.
though.
No way.
Well, so Joffrey had the intent, or had definitely had the motive, but he would have just done it out in the open. Like Joffrey's impulsive enough to just do it at any given time. I think Cersei would be the one that's manipulative enough and would have the foresight to think, well, if we send him out there in the middle of battle, no one will know any better. So I feel like Cersei is cunning enough to come up with that plan where Joffrey, if he wanted it done, he just would have done it.
And we get to see that the long spear isn't just in Podrick's pants, but also in his hand, I guess.
yes.
Spoiler alert.
Go
Yeah, that
Podrick.
hasn't happened yet. Come on. Although I do like the way that Tyrion basically Cotton Hilled somebody. That was great. Just took him off got his shins blown off in the big one.
I love Cotton Hill. Just as the Queen Regent is about to Nightshade Tomlin and all seems lost, Tywin and the Tyrells show up to save the day with the ghost of Renly in the lead. Stannis' forces are forced to retreat. Was the loss at Blackwater, like the Confederates' loss at Gettysburg, Stannis' last and best hope at the Iron Throne?
It very well might be because he took a major loss. And I mean, in men, in ships, in resources, in morale. The amount of stuff that he poured into that single attack, he lost so much that even though he survived and Davos survived and some of his men survived, trying to recover that much is near impossible in any reasonable amount of time. In the meantime, you're seeing houses join forces, bringing the Tyrells back into the fold, and Lannisters obviously are together, and any outlying houses all of a sudden coming in. So one side is going down quickly, and the other side is ramping up. It's hard to get by.
Ryan, did King's Landing take Stannis' best shot right to the chin and keep going?
Yeah, one would think so at this point. I don't know how much more Stannis could have brought to this battle. I mean, outside of maybe joining forces with Robb and Robb attacking from land and Davos from sea. And Stannis from sea. Like, I don't know what more he could have done. And at this point, it seems like a death blow. It seems like, how do you recoup that with the loss? With that kind of a loss, not only do you lose resources, but you scare the shit out of anyone else who might think of joining your side. Like if King's Landing's able to take his best shot, why would any house that maybe is on the fence or has the chance of reconciling with the Lannisters, why would they take a chance? It just doesn't. At this stage, it would seem like he's done.
Jules, if Tyrion wasn't at the position of hand and calling the battle and then leading the defense, would King's Landing fell?
I think it would have fallen. I think he really had a good grasp on where their weaknesses kind of were and what, he needed to do to help them come out on top. But Obviously with Tywin coming in at the last minute, it really helped seal the deal for them. I mean, it was neck and neck for sure. I mean, Stannis's team had a good hold on them too, but I definitely think that had Tyrion not been in charge and it was left up to Joffrey, I think they would have been in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think the wildfire trick, though, because that took some plotting before. I mean, that was episodes before this where you're not making it for them anymore. You're making it for me. He had that all set up. And I mean, he was dumping a lot of wildfire into Blackwater Bay. So the forethought into what was happening, I think that Joffrey obviously had no idea what was going. He's like, what are we doing? Where are our ships? Where's this? And he's like, just tell him, shut the fuck up. Let me do what I'm doing.
They really did lack any sort of semblance of a military commander.
Any true military commander, yes.
Yeah, because Tyrion had like books he was reading. He had floor plans. He had everything about the castle or the Red Keep laid out. I mean, he knew all that, and he was spending time doing all that. Meanwhile, Joffrey was just, torturing Sansa somewhere. So, I mean,
hey, look, I got a new sword. Kiss it.
Yeah.
Linda, give us your parting thoughts on Blackwater and your rating.
I thought it was a great episode, even though my precious king did take a crippling loss, unfortunately. It was a great episode. It was really marvelously done. I was rooting for Tyrion at one point. I'll admit it, for like a minute. Damn it.
Right before he got sliced in the face, right? Right then.
Yeah, it was great. Overall, the episode is super strong. The politics take the back seat for a little bit as the action comes through. Sansa gets in some great digs. Cersei's still a queen bee. I love it. So I'm going to say out of 10, it's definitely an 8 or a 9.
To this day, I still think it's the greatest hour of TV I've ever watched. It blew me away. I think I was sold on the show from season 1. And I remember because I didn't watch season 1, and then I finished season 1 right before season 2 started, and was just blown away. I mean, it's cinematic in a way that nothing I don't think I've ever seen match that up until that point. Just the story was amazing. It was the most tense episode of almost anything I've ever seen. It felt like a 3-hour movie. The dialogue was great. The effects were great. The different character moments, whether they were small between Bronn and the Hound or large with the wildfire, there were so many great moments. This easily a 10. If I could give it a 11 or 12, I would give it that. That's how good this episode is. I think I don't know that anything will ever match this episode as far as just the viewing experience for me. And every time I watch it, it's better. It's better, and I find new things to latch onto. So yeah, easily a 10. And if I could give it more, I would give it more. I'd give it whatever points I could give this episode.
I'm going to follow suit with this whole episode and just say I agree with Ryan. Ryan, I've agreed with everything you've said this whole episode. He is right. I give it a 10 too. I remember when I saw this episode, I was blown away. Mainly, I think the wildfire caught me. Watching Tyrion, watching his plans, it was amazing to me, this episode, because we hadn't seen anything like that in the first season. We didn't see any battles. We didn't see any strategy like this. And just to see it all played out, it was amazing. And this for sure solidified everything I thought was awesome about this whole series. And really, as we all know, it can only get better from here. So for sure, this was a 10 episode.
For me, the Battle of Blackwater still holds up as one of the strongest Game of Thrones episodes. I loved everything about it. The only thing I would have changed if I could have was a few more cutscenes around the city to make the battle look a little bigger. Other than that, it was perfect. The CGI for the Dragon's Fire was amazing. Lena Headey and Peter Dinklage gave perhaps the performances of their career. The Lannisters are once again able to snatch victory out of the antlers of defeat. The Battle of Blackwater is a hard one to top, and after the after effect may certainly change the game as we knew it. I'd give the episode a solid 9.
Well, for me, I really did love this episode. Now, in our review, I'm a little upset that we didn't talk more about Lancel Lannister, who later in the series becomes a little more of a badass, but right now appears to be the biggest pussy the Lannisters have ever put on this earth.
He's Lannister light.
Man, He is such a sissy, and that wispy hair he's got going on, he is just awful. And, like, even Cersei physically punks him at one point, and it was so great, but he was such a sissy. That being said, the rest of this episode is aces, and I can't say enough about Tyrion and Peter Dinklage's performance, because you could see that he was able to emulate all of the strength and fear together, and that is so hard to be able to present strength while being afraid and have that come through the screen. It was amazing. So everything together on this episode, you really couldn't go wrong. If you didn't love Game of Thrones before this and you've just been tolerating it and watching up until Blackwater, this should have hooked you. This episode is wonderful. For me, it's a 10. And it's right on par with the very first episode from the series. The first series got you started. This one just kept you in your seat for as many years as they plan to run. There you have it, Cynic Radio Podcast, episode 9 of season 2, Blackwater from Game of Thrones. We're going to call it a 9.5. We got more episodes and more seasons coming up in future weeks, but right now, we're going to talk a little Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Stick around.
And on to a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The movie opens with Peter's mom and his interdimensional father 34 years in the past. Now this mirrors the first movie as we saw Cole's mom die. Over the last decade or so, flashbacks have become a relevant way of telling stories, Lost being one of the shows that comes to mind the most. They kind of made them cool again. Ryan, what was your feeling on the use of flashbacks to start in opening scenes in both Guardians of the Galaxy movies?
I think it was good to give me a little bit of context since I wasn't familiar with the characters, so I think it worked. It's weird. It's funny you asked the question because now that I think about it, I did think something was off to me about the opening. Maybe it was a flashback, but it didn't bother me because again, it does give you some context, and I think again I needed it just to know who these characters are, what their motivations are, and to get a little bit of an idea about them.
Linda, what's your thoughts on flashbacks in general?
I think they're fine when they're used appropriately, but I think that a lot of modern television shows and a lot of modern movies overuse them to the point where they're boring and expected. I think in this case, it was well done, and it was only done once, this is the only flashback. It's the very first scene. We move on pretty immediately. So I think that it's when used well, it's good.
I feel like Parcells. The thing about flashbacks is also they now have the CGI to create a way younger version of the actor rather than just put a goofy wig on them. Flashbacks now are a better way to set the table than they used to be, especially we throw a wig on them, cake makeup on them, and it's like, all right, this is 30 years in the past. And pre 5 years ago, you're like, no, it wasn't. We cut to more modern times with the Guardians doing battle with a huge monster. We see that they all have their own way of doing things, and we find out that Drax does indeed have sensitive nipples. IG, based on the massive battle with the squid-like monster, which was both exciting and very visually interesting, does it appear to you like the Guardians have finally become a team?
Well, a little bit, but they still have a little bit of standoffishness toward each other where each thinks that they are individually more important than being a part of the team. So, like, if you put them on a basketball court together, like, the ball would never be passed, I think, at this point in the movie. They're each trying to do their own thing. I mean, even like some of the things like Peter Quill saying, oh, is that a gun? I thought you used swords and I used guns. So that's my thing. They're all worried about what the other ones are doing instead of saying, let's develop a plan and do something about this. And they do come up with a plan during the fight that helps some, but they maybe should have started with that instead of eventually getting to it.
Ryan, did we establish whether Drax was right? I mean, did he cut the thing from the inside and cause the crack that Gamora eventually took the monster down with?
I don't buy it, but yeah, I thought it was all Gamora. I thought it was hilarious. The opening scene was great, except that I couldn't help but think that they looked like the Rathtars from The Force Awakens. Like that thing looked I know, it looked the same design, and that threw me off for a little bit. But yeah, I think Gamora definitely got that.
Well, maybe they're going to merge these universes. I mean, they're both coming out of Disney now.
Hey,
that
they're
could
both
work.
from Disney. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Linda, my only gripe with the whole movie was Baby Groot dancing during the battle. Although it was adorable, I thought it was a slightly overbit and overdone and kind of cornball. However, I do love the choice of Mr. Blue Sky by ELO. I thought it was perfect. What did you think of that whole turn of events?
I thought it was cute. I thought it was a fun way to introduce all of the characters again and get us used to seeing them working together, or in this case, not really working together. I liked it. I liked the way that they followed Groot. I thought it was kind of funny and unique. I thought it was a clever way to, again, show us these characters again for the first time. So yeah, I didn't have much of a problem with it. And I think that that song was one of the few uses of their sort of trademark 80s soundtrack that actually worked throughout the whole movie.
How about you, IG? How'd you feel about Dancing Groot?
Dancing Groot could have been about 90% less Dancing Groot. I think having some is good, but I think he needed to do something else. I don't know what, because he's, 3 inches tall, but it just took way too long. It was too much. Thankfully, it's really just kind of this portion with the Dancing Groot. Groot gets better later in the movie and does more cool shit and more funny stuff. I really do enjoy Groot. Just this instance, it just went too long with the dancing.
During their audience with the Sovereign, the Guardians gain Gamora's sister Nebula as payment, and their leader inquires about Star-Lord's origin, an unorthodox genealogy which tweaks him a little bit. Rocket jumps in with, they told me you people were conceited douchebags, but that's not true at all, and he winks. He also steals some batteries. Ryan, was this a case of Rocket being Rocket, or was he sticking up for Quill?
No, it was Rocket being Rocket. I think that's part of I guess part of this. What we see early on is that while they're becoming a team, they're not fully a fully formed team, and they'll let their individual, whether it's differences between Groot and Drax or Rocket's own kind of self-destructive tendencies, they allow that to sometimes kind of go in front of the greater good of the team.
Now having to escape the Sovereign fleet because of Rocket's sticky fingers. Linda, is it your opinion, if you were the leader of the Guardians, is he worth the trouble that he brings?
Possibly. I would say he is, mostly because he is the most technically minded creature among them. He's the one who's stuck repairing the Milano. He's the one who innovates whenever they're in a tough spot. He's the one who gets the bombs together. He's the one who helps them escape and comes up with plans that are really, really intricate and, takes some doing. I think he's worth it, but I think he definitely needs to check his attitude at the door.
Yeah, he's totally the MacGyver of the group with a whole lot of Cersei worked into him.
Not to mention that he has a giant tree as a bodyguard.
Not so giant anymore.
Yeah, but he'll get giant again, hopefully.
Hey, give it time.
Give that motherfucker some more water, I think.
No, we just needed to figure out a way to cash in on Groot and make more money off him before we put him back to full size.
Yeah.
Teenage Groot.
Exactly. We found out that not only does Drax have sensitive nipples, but he also has famously large turds. Is Drax not the best character that Marvel's come up with in a long time?
Drax, this incarnation of Drax, he's not as interesting in the comic books that I've read, but they did a good job of fleshing it out and turning him into not only a badass who really fights pretty well, but deadpan comic relief. He does such a good job in the things that he does, and Dave Bautista, amazing in this role. He is perfect.
Yeah, not being the world's greatest actor, I think they hit on because Drax really isn't that far from his wrestling persona. So I think it was cast perfectly. He's, in physical condition to look like Drax, and his delivery is near perfect. As Peter and Rocket fight for control of the Milano, and the Quill Millennium Falcon crashes, there seems to be a distinct lack of respect for Star-Lord as their leader. Ryan, do you think they'll ever give him the respect he's due?
I don't think he'll ever get respect as we see how, the way we see a leader getting respect, like a general or a colonel or captain. But I think he'll get respect based on the way that their group needs to. I think he'll be the leader and the clear leader of the group. But I don't think they'll treat him like we would expect to see a leader treated, if that makes any sense. You know, like their relationship or their dynamic is different from what we normally see from a team where you have a real leader. I think there's a lot. There'll always be kind of conflict amongst them, but I think that he will and has established himself as a leader, and especially
more like a rookie quarterback.
Yeah,
that's a good
point.
analogy.
Yeah,
like a rookie quarterback.
It's sort of one of those things that just always is going to happen to Star-Lord, is that he's never going to be taken seriously. Never. And that's partially because of his own happy-go-lucky attitude and the way that he cracks jokes and interacts with other people. But even in the comic books, he is notoriously bad at being the guy in charge. He's never going to get that sort of respect. He's just not that kind of guy.
Rodney Dangerfield, he might be his son. I don't know.
Yeah, he's an imperfect leader for an imperfect team. I think that he fits the bill. He could never go and lead the Avengers, but at the same time, I don't think Captain America could stand and run around with the Guardians either.
I think he's well suited for what he does. Like he is right where he's supposed to be. Like he, again, ragtag group of people fighting in the galaxy, like weird, crazy stuff happening. Like it's perfect for him. Like he would not make it anywhere else.
Ryan, in the world's biggest coincidence, Peter's genealogy gets brought up, and then the 1-inch man saves Quill and the Milano, and it turns out to be his dad. What did you feel about that?
It was a little too convenient, I guess, but I was willing to look past it. I think I can be a little nitpicky, more about just things, consistency, and seeing, I don't like tropes being used over and over, and I didn't love that, like, it was kind of, it was convenient that he showed up, but I was willing to accept it as long as it would drive the story forward, which is one of my issues. I guess we'll might get to a little bit later, but I accepted it, but I felt like it didn't drive the story quickly as much as I wanted it to when it did happen.
I felt like maybe they should have done something with the Sovereign where they said, there was a guy here asking questions about you, and that spooked the Guardians, and they decided to take off from there. I thought that would have been a little bit better writing, and then he catches up with them and crashes the ship. We cut to a Ravager bar, and it looks like our old friend Yondu has broken some eggs with the other 99 factions of the Ravagers by dealing with kids. IG, knowing that you come from you can handle the rough and tumble background, would you belly up to the bar with Yondu and crew?
Yeah, I think, if you're willing to embrace the lifestyle a little bit, I think they'd welcome you in. And even you don't have to be fully embraced. You just have to not basically look down on them. I think they'd let you hang out and have a drink or two. They seem like they could be some fun guys to be around as long as you don't mind getting eaten if you cross them.
Linda, would you cosplay in a Ravager bar?
Oh my God. You guys are out of your minds. No, not what I want to do. Not my idea of a fun time. I am a young lady. I don't hang around dive bars.
We have a great Howard the Duck cameo. The Whispers of Rebellion begin with Taserface at the center. Ryan, what was more damaging to Yondu's reputation, being soft on Star-Lord or the shunning of the rest of the smuggler factions?
Definitely the shunning would seem to be far more damaging to him, and it seemed to that hurt him. And it definitely seemed, and credit to the acting was great in that scene. But I think that really hurt him more than anything.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Ryan. Although that just kind of brought up more feelings from his crew about how he just kind of let Star-Lord get away with everything. He's like, you were soft on Peter all that time. You let him get away with everything. Michael Rooker, you just can't say enough good things about him. He did such a great job. His Yondu portrayal is wonderful, and his weapon of choice, his whistle-activated arrow, that would instill some fear in me too, where I'm a member of his crew. I gotta admit that, watching him wield that thing with the miraculous whistling he can pop out, I mean, I'd almost believe that Michael Rooker could probably whistle like that. I don't think he can.
In the battle for the heavyweight championship of social awkwardness, Drax and Mantis face off, and I love every single interaction between the two of them. It was some of the best comedy they've ever had in the Marvel movies. Linda, what's your opinion of the fledgling relationship between Drax and Mantis, and was it a match made in awkward heaven?
So I want to start out by sort of talking about Mantis just in general terms, because when she first showed up as sort of this Asian-coded, shy, submissive pleasure slave, more or less, I was so on edge. I was so wary and scared about what they were going to do with this character who had all of the telltale markings of a bad trope, like a bad Oriental trope. But they did so well. They did so well. And I think that the interactions between her and Drax were so instrumental in changing my perception of Mantis throughout the film, from someone who seemed like, wow, this could really just be a shell, a trope. I don't know if I like this, into, yep, Mantis, she's awesome. She's great. She and Drax play off each other perfectly. I think that they're like going to have a great bromance in the future. And I love it. I thought it was super, super funny. And again, I think this goes back to the acting for Drax, where he's just so deadpan, and then all of a sudden he's bursting out laughing in like the most ridiculous way possible, and Mantis is just infected by it. And it's so cute and sweet and touching, because Drax is typically a character who people can't relate to as well, and who struggles to get across like his real feelings. You know, like I know that it's sort of a conundrum to someone who doesn't lie and doesn't understand metaphor, has a hard time connecting to people in an honest, authentic way. But I think Mantis and Drax were really, really cute and played off each other very, very well. Hopefully they don't go romantic with it, because I really enjoyed them being very funny and adorable, like in their own little awkward Olympic marathon.
He does only think that she's beautiful on the inside.
On the inside.
Oh, so funny. It was so funny.
I mean, if there's anyone that could understand Drax to the core in the Marvel Universe, it's got to be Mantis. I really hope that they bring her back for the next movie. That leads me to my next question. There seems to be a lot of complex feelings between the Guardians and some of their enemies. Ryan, do they need a good session with Dr. Phil?
Yeah, they definitely do. It's interesting for an action, kind of a big budget tentpole action movie. There really are a lot of psychological and family and friend issues amongst them. So yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I definitely think they could do a session with Dr. Phil.
Hope your dad isn't as big of a dick as you, orphan boy. What's your goal here? Is it to get everyone to hate you? Because it's working. IG, what was Rocket's motivation in that parting statement?
I think that he thought they were leaving, and things that have left him in the past, he didn't want to be hurt. He wanted to deal the hurt. He wasn't sure he was going to see them ever again. And he's, rather than deal with it like, I'll miss you, I hope to see you again, right when you find work, something, he just lashed out in anger, because if he makes you leave in anger instead of sadness, then he feels like maybe it's okay. So I think, it's a really well done thing that's a normal thing in like junior high school for, it's like when today you're friends with somebody and then they like a movie you don't like, and then tomorrow you're the stupidest ever. It just makes you feel better to make someone an ex-friend by saying mean shit rather than saying, I wish you well. I hope you do better and good luck. If you need anything, I'm here. And Rocket is not that kind of person.
Well, Rocket to the core seems like somebody that wants to be needed and wants to be loved. And I felt that he was kind of, like you said, dealing hurt before he left. But I think he was also worried that he wasn't ever going to see Quill again. Quill finds his family. He's content. He doesn't need to pal around with a misfit like Rocket. Before they're captured, Rocket takes out somewhere between 20 and 50 Ravengers. Ryan, is he the most dangerous member of the crew? And with your Muay Thai background, would you go one-on-one versus Rocket?
I absolutely would not go one-on-one with Rocket. But yeah, he I think they're all dangerous in their own ways. I think he obviously needs tools and technology, but as you mentioned earlier, I'm sure he can kind of MacGyver his way through a lot. But he's definitely the most dangerous, especially with any bit of equipment. Probably the most formidable once he grows up again would be Groot. He has the most ability, kind of one-on-one or hand-to-hand. But yeah, Rocket is definitely a really formidable force.
And sure, it's not just the rabies fear.
He's a trash bandit.
So I'm going to protest against that opinion, because Gamora is literally known as the most dangerous assassin in the galaxy.
Okay.
Like, I'm just saying, she is a reputation as being dangerous and
Well, the difference there
really,
is that
really,
an
like,
assassin
a
is
threat.
generally going to go kill a person, and I think Rocket is showing the ability to kill a bunch of people all at the same time.
And the joy he does with doing it. He was having a great time.
He's having a blast.
I'm just saying, I
we've
would.
seen while her reputation might be better, we've seen Rocket do more damage. I would argue we've seen Rocket do more in the 2 movies than we've seen Gamora.
I'm pretty sure that Gamora lifted like a 2-ton machine gun and pointed it at her sister's
I did that
face.
just before the podcast.
Yeah, but she pointed it. She didn't pull the trigger.
She totally pulled the trigger. I'm just saying, I think that if
Rocket made a
Guardians,
nuclear bomb that practically destroyed a planet.
Yeah, but he didn't have tape.
if the Guardians were in like a Thunderdome type situation, money's on Gamora.
Oh no, absolutely.
100%.
So, yeah, like kind of one-on-one. Yeah, I would say Rocket's probably the weakest in that setting. But as far as who's more dangerous, if you include the skills he has with weaponry, and what we've seen so far, I would say Rocket has proven himself to be formidable.
IG, if he's a planet, how did he make a baby with your mother? Wouldn't it smush him? Or wouldn't it smush her?
I don't know. That might turn into one of those "your mom was so big" jokes that she had sex with a planet.
Peter's dad reveals that he's a Celestial, which is a god with a small g. He created this planet, or better yet, he is this planet, and he's as humble as Drax. Linda, being half human, half god, is Star-Lord's massive ego slightly more understandable now?
Sort of. I'm going to admit that I was really, really annoyed by the reveal of Ego as Peter's father. Being a comic book fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy series, I was really disappointed by that choice, just in general. So I think that after that was sort of revealed, I just got a sour taste in my mouth for the rest of the film, and I got very, very bitter very fast.
So Yondu, Groot, and Rocket make their escape and kill every fucking Ravager in sight on the ship, mostly using Yondu's mega arrow. Ryan, has a weapon ever been as equally powerful and fucking stupid at the same time?
I don't know. I'm sure there has, but it is really a ridiculous weapon. But I guess it's effective. And you know what was kind of cool is at the end. I'm forgetting what's the guy's name who was given the arrow at the end of the movie. The guy that came to help him out, one of the Ravagers.
Yeah, that was Yondu's right-hand man, Kraglin.
Okay, well, so one thing they did is they did a good job when they show Kraglin struggling with it. At least you can see the level of skill that he has with it, and I guess it's a unique weapon. And I guess somehow he was able to practice so much that it can become the most deadly, seemingly deadly weapon in the universe.
It's like watching a newbie with a set of nunchucks or something hit themselves in the nuts repeatedly.
IG, we both know though, as unique and powerful as Yondu's arrow was, and I absolutely hate it. But if this was World of Warcraft, how soon would it have been nerfed after the first movie?
Oh God, that wouldn't have made it out of beta probably. Holy shit. That thing, hunters everywhere would be trying to farm whatever thing that came out of. Jesus Christ. And the thing is, even in the first movie, he took out that whole group of whatever those bad guys were, and including one piloting a ship. So, if you can slice all those guys open in a matter of moments, including a guy that's behind a wall, basically, yeah, that's a little overpowered. It kind of gave him... that thing was flying all over his ship here. Just how good of a hearing range does that thing have that he can just stand wherever he's at whistling?
Nerf
and
that thing. OP. Nebula takes her fancy new ship and shows up and tries to kill Gamora with it. Ryan, in a completely unrelated question, what's your opinion of uninvited guests, especially family members?
I'm pretty lucky that I don't have to deal with it often, but it does suck. They're just... It ruins everything in a weird way. It's like whatever your plans are screwed. You've got to, if you're a good person, you can't just turn them away. They usually are just going to suck, you just take from you, like leech off of you. And so no, I don't like uninvited guests at all.
Yeah, Ryan is like, who the fuck is ringing my doorbell?
I don't even answer the door. My family knows it too. They don't show up. Call ahead or don't show up. Great cameo by Stan Lee talking to the Watchers. Yondu goes into his speech. I know who you are, boy, because you're me. IG, do you understand? Do you see the commonalities between the lead drummer of the Blue Man Group and Ranger Rick?
Yeah, I totally do. I mean, because he's right. He hit it on the head. He just laid it out on the line right there for Rocket, and Rocket kind of lamented for a moment and then kind of gave into it. Yeah, you're right. Let's work together. And it was a good way to pull them kind of together to work toward a common goal. I liked it. I liked how it worked out.
Ego finally cuts to the chase like a Bond villain and explains to Peter his plan to make the galaxy his own by spreading his seed everywhere like an NFL draft pick. But he can't do it alone. It broke my heart to put that tumor in your head. Ego reveals that it was him that killed Quill's mom. Linda, what was your reaction to that WTF moment?
I'm pretty sure that my feelings about Ego are well known at this point. But at that point in the film, I was just so ready for him to die. So ready, so prepared, so here for it. So at that point,
it wasn't even a minor overreaction on Quill's part, right?
No, not in the least. I don't know. I heard that and I was like, of course he did. And of course he's telling Peter this because he's Ego. He's made of ego. Of course he's going to tell his son, like, yeah, I was super sad, majorly bummed out, but she's temporary and didn't actually mean anything. So it's cool, dude. Just do the thing, like blue stuff everywhere. It'll be cool. Yeah, I don't know. At that point, I was just like, of course you did. Of course you did. Like, you couldn't ruin my life any more than you have at this moment. Of course you did.
He did go and crush his Walkman, too. Out of my way, smaller, dumber Groot is my absolute favorite line of the movie. Our heroes reunite, and they race to the middle of the planet to find out how many licks does it take to get to the center of a celestial. Ryan, if you're going to go through all this problem to try to kill a god, would you bring tape for the death button?
Yeah, while as funny as it was kind of silly because you would come up with a way, like, why even have it there? Why have
did
it
he
exposed?
even wire it up?
Yeah, like and why is there a button attached to it? Like, just so many things could go wrong that it made for, again, it was hilarious, but it was kind of silly.
As the Sovereigns show up for revenge and their only hope and the race against time against Ego, what do you think of your chances if your last hope is Baby Groot?
Well, that's an awful good question, but at this point, they seem pretty low. Because Groot just wants to push the kill us all button. He shows us that repeatedly. And 9 times out of 10, I'm willing to bet that's the one he pushes and everybody dies. And I guess that gets you away from the Sovereign. So, I mean, you win some, you lose some.
He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. In sacrificing himself to save Peter, Linda, did Yondu find his redemption?
I'm not entirely sure if he deserved redemption. I mean, he did basically take little kids to Ego for years and years and years to be absorbed into the Celestials, whatever it was, honestly. No, I don't think it redeemed him, but it definitely made him more sympathetic. And I definitely really, really liked him and really appreciated his existence at that point in the movie. I thought it was a little strange that Peter Quill had to lose 2 dads in one blow at that point in time. But I liked it. Like, I don't think it was a redemption necessarily, but I definitely think it was a very, very good line.
The rest of the Ravager faction show up to bid farewell to Yondu. What were your thoughts on that, and how did you rate this movie?
So I thought that was great. It was a nice end to the scene and gave his character a little bit more, importance and showed that there were people that did value him. So I had mixed feelings on the movie. I think, in a lot of ways, like, it was kind of less than the sum of its parts, if it makes any sense. Like, I think it was really funny. I enjoyed the Baby Groot stuff. I don't know. I couldn't get enough of the Baby Groot stuff. So I love Baby Groot, but I did think the music wasn't quite as good as it as the first one, and I think it almost seemed like they just assumed that if you play some old songs, it would be, everyone would love it. But I don't think the music was as good. I think visually it was great. The performances were really good, especially Michael Rooker and Batista, and really just everybody. Everyone performed really great. Kurt Russell was great. I think the performances were really great, but it was just underwhelming to me. I think the story, it just didn't get going, and I'm okay with things developing slowly, but it wasn't until the third act that we really knew what the hell was going on and where this was headed. And then the third act just kind of devolved into your standard like superhero movie, just chaos and not really knowing what's going on, but somehow the heroes will win in the end. So, I think while again I liked it and I think there were really great parts, I just felt like underwhelmed by the movie. So I'd give it 7.5.
To me, this movie mirrored the first one in a lot of good ways. It was fun, exciting. They mixed in a lot more emotion this time around. As the characters began to kind of respect and care about each other more. There were rumors of the original Guardians lineup from the comics showing up, and Sylvester Stallone and some of the Ravager captains sort of looked like that team. So some great cameos. It pained me to say goodbye to Michael Rooker's Yondu. I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It looks like the whole team will be back. And we also got a great Adam Warlock Easter egg in the final scene and a little bit of Teenage Groot. Guardians was everything that sold us to be and more. I think it's a 9. I congratulate Marvel, James Gunn, and the cast for becoming the go-to Marvel franchise.
Well, I think that compared to the first movie, this one really doesn't stand up. I agree with Ryan. The plot was meandering and didn't get going and was really very frustrating for me personally. I think that, again, the dialogue was great. I thought the characterization was really spot on. I think that the writer-director took the criticisms that were made of the first movie. For example, a lot of people mentioned that it didn't pass the Bedchill test. Like, two women never spoke to each other about anything other than another dude. And I think that in this movie, we really saw Nebula and Gamora come together as sisters and enemies and friends. And it was really, really good. It was exceptionally well done. I was really excited for that. There were humorous parts, there were touching parts, but I think overall the plot just really ruined the whole movie for me. So I think on the basis of that, I'd have to give it a 6 out of 10.
I really did like it, and if anything, going into Guardians 3, I really hope that they do stick with the Teenage Groot, because that cutscene at the in the credits was absolutely hilarious with the Teenage Groot. So even more than the Baby Groot, I think the Teenage Groot could win the day. That being said, there's so many good things about this movie, and I think even despite the holes in the plot, it does enough to keep it afloat, especially everything between Mantis and Drax. That, almost on its own, could carry this movie, because it is most of the time hilarious, and there are a few times where it's really touching and heartfelt, and I like that they're able to go both directions with that. And it helps me a lot with this movie. It's a lot of fun, and it is a visually impressive movie. And that end scene in the theater with all of the Ravagers shooting out their fireworks or whatever they want to call them is so good. You really got to go see that. It is beautiful to look at on the screen. And it's probably very simple to do because you're creating laser shows. So it's not like the CGI has to be all that effective to create people and things like that, but it works. It works so well, and it is beautiful. This is definitely, you have to see it in a theater. Get out and see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The Cynic Radio Podcast, we're going to give this an 8.5 between
Thanks a
all
lot,
of
Linda.
us. It would have been a 9. Linda drug us down.
All right.
But that's okay.
To be fair, I gave it 7.5.
Yeah, and Cynic and I ran it up quite a ways.
Give it a 14.
All right, I'll give it an 8.
See how this works.
We'll leave this out, and we'll give it an 8. And
One last question before we go.
We got one more question
I
coming
want to
up.
go around to you. Where do you, with a lot of heavyweight movies coming out after this, do you think where do you think Guardian falls compared to what Spider-Man Homecoming is going to do, or Thor Ragnarok, or even Wonder Woman?
That's a good question. I think that Homecoming will do better. I don't know why. It's not. I don't know that it's the
It'll do
logical
better because
choice.
it's Spider-Man.
Bam.
Yeah,
there
but-
it is.
But do people have faith in it? Like, do people have faith in it? You know that. So I do think Homecoming
After
will do
Civil
better.
War, they do.
Hopefully, I hope, because I do think it's going to be good. So I think it'll do better than Homecoming.
No, you think Homecoming will do better?
Sorry, Homecoming will do better. I don't think Wonder Woman will do better. I think Planet of the Apes is going to be a better movie, but it probably won't do the same box office. What else do we have coming up?
Ragnarok.
I don't think I think it'll do better than Ragnarok.
So you're saying Spider-Man, Guardians, Thor, Wonder Woman?
Yeah, or Wonder Woman, Thor. I think if Wonder Woman is critically, if it is a critical success, I think Wonder Woman will do better than Thor. But I think it all depends on whether, you know, how it comes out the box.
I think the hype for Wonder Woman is real, and I think that it will perform better than Guardians. I'm on the fence about Spider-Man. I'm biased. I don't really like his story, even though I do like Tom Holland, and I'm a little interested. I think the total is going to be, I think the top performer is going to be Spider-Man, followed by Wonder Woman, Guardians, and then whatever trash he mentioned with the monkeys.
What about
How
Ragnarok?
dare you say that?
I think Ragnarok's going to be, I think Ragnarok might be on the same level as Guardians, maybe underneath.
You don't like the recent Planet of the Apes movies?
Okay, that's going to be a discussion for another time.
All right, IG, where are you rating
Oh
them?
my God, I think we need another podcast.
Well, I think obviously Spider-Man's going to end up on top. It's just that property is just worth so much that on its own it's going to go, because quite simply everybody knows who Spider-Man is, and nobody knew before Guardians of the Galaxy. You really had to be reading comic books to know who any of these people were, which is not bad, but they were able to take something that nobody knew who they were and turn it into a successful franchise.
Solid
So
gold.
that's great for them. They did very well. I think with the hype that is coming for Ragnarok is going to overtake Guardians a little bit. I don't think they're going to outperform by miles, but it will outperform. Wonder Woman is the wild card. If they do a good job with that movie, if they get some decent reviews from people that aren't worried about things in film that we're not worried about with comic book stuff. If they put together a good superhero movie where she is Wonder Woman more than she is not, where she is doing things more than she is just lamenting, then that has a huge possibility of surpassing everything except Spider-Man. I don't think it's got a shot at Spider-Man.
I think Wonder Woman really is a wild card. I'm going to go Homecoming. I'm going to go Guardians. I'm going to go... Wonder Woman and Thor to me are kind of on the same wavelength. I saw a Wonder Woman trailer that absolutely blew me away the other day. It has potential. The big thing with Spider-Man, they've got to push that this isn't an origin story, that we're moving forward, and I think people will they'll flock to see it because they're going to want to see what Marvel's done with the characters. And Planet of the Apes just frankly looks amazing, so I'm not quite sure what Linda's talking about. Go ahead and take us out, Ig, before she starts yelling.
So there we go. One more time. We're going to call it an 8. Go see this in the theaters. It just came out in the United States, so now is the time. I promise we didn't give it all away. This is worth going to see. You're going to love every minute of it. Just ignore the major plot points because it doesn't matter. It's still visually impressive and fun to watch. And really, with a Marvel superhero type movie, all you really need is a nice popcorn bucket and a couple of hours and go have a good time. Don't focus on the tiny details. Have some fun. Right now, here comes Really. So now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for Really. I'd explain it. Just listen. You'll get it.
My really this week is for a product called the Licky Brush, and I know I'm a little late to this party, but I have but one question. What in the entire fuck is wrong with you people? This abortion of a concept started last year as a Kickstarter. and they bill it as a way to get more intimately involved with your cat. Where does this end exactly? You feed your pets, you shelter your pets, you love your pets. Hell, you can even choose to sleep in the same bed with your pets. Please, for the love of everything that's holy, keep your pets out of your mouths. This has become entirely unhealthy behavior. Instead of spending $35 on this abortion, why not maybe donate to the ASPCA or non-kill shelter or subcontract it out to another cat? Please, for the love of God, pull back from this insanity before it's too late. Can owner-pet marriages be right around the corner? Or hell, people who identify as feline? Do we really need your neighbor Kate rummaging through your garbage in the middle of the night with cat ears and a tail? I can feel this coming like impending doom. Pull back from the brink of insanity. The licky brush. Really?
Okay, my really this week is going out to whatever douchebags have essentially heckled and harassed good guy Josh McDevitt, who plays Eugene on The Walking Dead, off of social media due to their fixation on not agreeing with the choices the character on the show made last season. Look, guys, it's fun to have a show you're so involved with that seems so realistic and the actor does such an amazing job that you actually believe they are the character they are playing. But the bottom line is they aren't, and it is imperative to recognize that difference and stop being a pathetic keyboard warrior with brass balls because you have nothing else to do with your life. I've never quite understood the psychology behind treating people online in a way you would never treat them in real life, but I guess that's just me. Josh is a great guy and is very interactive with all his fans and incredibly fun to follow on social media. What could you possibly gain by sending this man death threats, or anyone playing a character from a TV show? I would cancel my social media too if I was subjected to bullshit like this. Except, as usual, a couple lone psychopaths have now left everyone else who is a fan out in the cold and unable to interact with Josh. So to those fucking idiots who have zero life and should check into getting some therapy for harassing this poor guy. Really?
Really, for me, this week goes out to the anti-vaxxer campaign that has really hit home. Because in Minnesota this week, there has been an outbreak of more than 41 confirmed cases since April of measles. This disease was basically eradicated. But now these anti-vaxxer people pop up and, oh, this might cause autism, which it doesn't. Oh, I don't want to do this because it's against my religion. So you don't want healthy children. That's great. Do your thing. However, if you're going to do that, homeschool your children. Keep them away from the rest of the kids. Because the only other logical excuse is, I can't afford it. And really, we give these things away for free most of the time. If you believe in anti-vaccination, if you believe that your children shouldn't be vaccinated for whatever reason, there should be an island you can go live on with your family. Please go there. Spread disease like wildfire. Get mumps, measles, rubella, anthrax, whatever you want. Just get it away because this is spreading through our schools. Anti-vaxxers. Really?
So my really for the week goes out to the New York Times for the hiring of science writer Bret Stephens, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, but also a known climate denier. So the claim is that the Times wanted to expand its range of political views, and I'm all for that. You know, I'm liberal, but I'm all for open dialogue and listening to both sides. But the problem here is that placing climate change in the realm of political views is the problem. Climate change is science fact. It's not political views. And to do that is being disingenuous, and it's only making a bad situation worse. So to the New York Times for hiring a science denier as a science writer, really?
And that's going to do it for episode 30 of the Cynic Radio podcast. I'm Igor, and with me has always been my co-host Cynic. We had a full house this week. Also joining us were Linda, Jules, and Ryan George from the Jim Wits podcast. You can find him over at thejimwits.com. We had a great time talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and Blackwater from Game of Thrones Season 2. Come back next week. We'll be talking more Game of Thrones and maybe some more surprises. But until then, send your comments, questions, concerns, and we might need a couple more Walkmen because ours was crushed by some dude named Ego, to cynicradio@gmail.com. Find us on the internet at cynicradio.com. Look for us on Facebook at facebook.com/cynicradio, and find us on Twitter at cynicradio. And until next time, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at cynicradio.com. Available for download on iTunes.
the fucking Guardians.